That's how they can make up publish, but.
Well, I can have six, that's the last long.
Sonny, would you go on over the calendar?
Absolutely.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order, so if everybody would please stand for the pledge, and we'll remain standing for a moment after that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Cody?
Please join us in a moment of silence for our first responders, fire, EMS, and police. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Please have a seat. I call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, June 18th. This meeting is being recorded via Zoom. And if there are any participants in the Zoom room, they'll be given an ample opportunity to ask questions. They just have to raise their hand. And people in the room will be given first opportunity to make comment or ask questions. The building is going to be closed tomorrow in observance of Juneteenth. And we will reopen again on Thursday at what time, 8:30, 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. East Goshen's Community Day is 5 o'clock on June the 20th and 29th at East Goshen Park. I hope everybody can join us. There are going to be moon bounces, live music, health screenings, a helicopter landing, hopefully, a petting zoo, and about 10 food trucks will be present. And of course, we end the evening with fireworks. Is there any public comment about anything that is not on the agenda this evening? Thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move right on to the emergency services reports, and Chief Bernard is here. Would you come on up, please?
Everyone.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
As always, I'd like to begin tonight with a statistical report. In the month of May, there were 2,179 calls for service that we responded to. Of that number, 1,165 occurred in East Goshen Township. Year-to-date calls for service is 10,904. Of that number, 5,932 occurred in East Goshen. When you look at the calls for service and compare pre-pandemic to current, you'll see that we have a slight increase over pre-pandemic years. Even when we take out our proactive calls, the numbers are slowly but definitively climbing. We'd like to invite everybody or remind everybody to visit our website and our social media. There's a lot of information on there, and I'd like to just highlight some of it. Despite the weather that we had on Friday, we had quite a nice turnout at our ice cream social in the East Goshen Park, and we'd like to thank our residents who joined us. They had a lot of fun petting alpacas and doing other things, and a lot of good conversation occurred. On our website, there is also an announcement that we have arrested an individual for a gift card draining scam. An individual who was going into grocery stores, taking gift cards and putting them on the shelf that he had already downloaded the numbers. When you bought the card and tried to use it, you found that the money was already drained out of it. We have arrested that individual, and my understanding that he's been sent back to us from New York. So we look forward to prosecuting him. Also, I'm happy to announce that our police association once again sponsored a Little League T-ball team this season. They just finished the spring season. Detective Hale served as their coach, and a wonderful time was had by all. With regard to some of the trends that occurred in East Goshen in May, the primary trends are frauds and scams. We had 12 fraud investigations. There was no commonality among them. We had everything from check washing to romance scams, computer repair scams, fake law enforcement pretending they have arrest warrant scams, and bank frauds. We also had a string of theft investigations, one retail theft, one receiving stolen property, and 3 thefts that include mail theft. The one thing that I've been telling people is among the different types of mail theft that were occurring, in East Goshen Township. The one that we're starting to see start up again is individuals will wait until you put the flag up on your personal mailbox, and then they will take things out of them. And lastly, we had 23 disturbance, domestics, harassments, et cetera, disturbance calls in East Goshen Township, and that is rather high number for this township, despite the fact that it's being summer. As far as unusual crimes, we had one burglary investigation at a residence. It was determined to be unfounded upon further investigations. We had a bad check investigation that involved a very high dollar amount. We had 2 threat investigations, and no charges were brought in those. One fleeing and eluding investigation, and 3 weapons investigations. 2 arrests were made in those cases. And that's a summary of what occurred. Is there any questions?
No, I'll just comment that the Cones with a Cop event was a really fun event. Fortunately, 4 of us were able to make it. John was actually out of town. But I know that Barbara and her husband were there. Cody was there, and Pete and his wife and I stopped down too, and we appreciated that event. It was a very nice opportunity to talk to a few of the residents between the raindrops.
I had ice cream on my own. I thought of you and I didn't.
Well,
So
we
it
have
wasn't-
an alpaca there, and we put a badge on him, and we
Yes.
made him an honorary alpaca officer.
He was really fun.
supervisor.
No, no.
Okay, okay.
I think that, while the chief is here, do you want to just roll right into the, RFP with the Daigle Group? Is that okay with everybody on the board? We just kind of, we'll just reshuffle that way she can, be here for that. So if, Derek, do you want to take it from here?
Sure, thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair. So, as I say in the memo, this concludes an almost 6-month process, really beyond it. If you're going by, last year and the year before, if everybody remembers, a study on, WeGo, personnel staffing, the models of staffing, basically how to really take that department and run with it with the future, I think was really what's been discussed on and off for the last 3 years. I think with Thornbury, no longer a client, of WeGo Police, the commission and as well as all of the board members felt it was an opportune time to really take hold and do the study now. So there was a process. Again, for the last 6 months, there was an RFP sent out, and I did that on behalf of the commission. We received 5 responses total from very qualified firms. And after interviews, follow-up meeting, the commission decided to recommend the Daigle Law Group. They came highly recommended. They have a lot of background in this field, and the commission basically wanted to have both boards review this and seek the recommendation to move forward with the Daigle Law Group study, evaluating and analyzing the staffing model and structure of WeGo Police Department. And the pricing is down there on the RFP, as well as in the motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Derek. Is there a motion?
Is there an opportunity to make comments?
After the motion.
Madam Chair, I move we accept the police commission's recommendation to move forward with the Daigle Law Group on a study evaluating and analyzing the staffing model and structure of the WeGo Police Department for an amount not to exceed 50,000.
Second motion.
Thank you. We have the motion and the second. Board discussion. Would anybody like to have any comments, or are there any questions on the board? From any of the board members? Barbara? You're good? Jody, do you have any comments or statements? Okay. All right. So if you have any questions or comments?
Yes, last night at the Westtown Township meeting, I attempted to ask questions regarding the selection of consultant, their research techniques, etc. At that time, I was advised that the police commission and townships will not be discussing anything relating to the consultant selection or etc., except during the executive sessions. I'd like to know from East Goshen, are you of the same opinion that nothing can be discussed?
Yes, it's a
Separate.
contractual negotiation.
Well,
And it is something that this has been discussed many times in public over the past 3 years. We were very close to initiating a similar study last year, but instead we went to the drawing board and to simplify the approach. So we received responses from five highly qualified organizations. And we do feel comfortable with the selection process. With the departure of Thornbury as a police client, it was an ideal time to take on an in-depth look at the police department and plan for the long-term future of WeGo.
So just to be clear, this will be on the public agenda for the police commission next week. It
Right.
has to be passed in a public meeting.
Right.
Yes, it has to be passed, but the discussion of the consultant will only be in executive session? Yes,
That is correct. That is the solicitor's advice.
okay, at this point, I have to say that I'm concerned about that, based upon the fact that roughly $50,000 of taxpayer money will be used for this study. And the fact that it's not going to be discussed ever in front of the public, other than the ratification of the contract, is concerning to me. And I have concerns it's a violation of the Sunshine Act. More importantly, the whole process by which the consultant was selected this time, I'd like to express my concerns about that.
Okay, so as far as that's concerned, the commission had a thorough 6-month process to select a firm that would help us in the time of transition. So we have lost we have not been able to obtain Thornbury as a client at this point. They decided not to come back to us. There was talk of doing this a number of times over the past several years, so this is not new. We have talked about it in public. We did solicit written feedback during the process from knowledgeable employees involved in the department, including command staff. And there were other people involved as well. We were only serving as a consultant if we were asked to provide our information. And the commission was to determine who then would be furthered in the process. So at this point, we're tasked with approving the funding for this or not. So findings are going to be, I think that they have to be made public, don't they?
Findings
The
is,
findings from the study. It's just a
Oh, yeah,
function of,
absolutely.
Mark, am I incorrect in saying this is a contract negotiation and we are not supposed to discuss that in public? Is that correct?
Right, well, the issues concerning, choosing this, the mega law group, sure, you don't need to discuss that in public. We have a public meeting right here, right now. And individuals are able to make comment to the board, so I mean, that satisfies the Sunshine.
Okay, I'd like to express why I have concerns. Based on the email that I received from Mr. Davis, the consultant is going to be brought in July. Okay, number one, the operations schedule for July has been posted. In accordance with labor agreements, any deviation from that schedule will result in overtime, which will further add to the cost of this project. Number two, as traditionally known, July and August are our biggest low staffing months. That means that officers are taking vacation or engaging in training, and therefore we are at our all-time lowest staffing during the time when this consultant study will start. But the third one particularly applies to East Goshen. In the last 30 days, I've been contacted by various members of this board who have expressed their concerns about the Goshen Fair. In case you're not aware, there have been numerous fairs and carnivals that have been canceled in the area, particularly in Chester and Delaware County, due to juvenile violence and to general criminal activity. I was asked by the board to offer some reassurances that that would not occur and that the Goshen Fair would always be the fun family event that it's always been. And I said that we would be taking steps to do so. However, at this point, it looks as though we're going to be tasked with providing police services, providing enhanced presence at a large community event, and working with the consultant. Simply put, you can't do all three of them at the same time.
well,
You're gonna have to decide what your priorities are.
Well, with all due
Wait,
respect,
can
with
I
all,
just,
with all due respect,
Right.
the overtime issue shouldn't be a concern because we don't have Thornbury police any longer. So I don't understand, and you were part of the process. You were allowed to present a plan as well.
Yes,
And you presented a plan that you couldn't recommend.
right, because it ultimately involved taking steps that we could not be safely taken.
So what else are we supposed to do? How else are we supposed to
I'm saying
proceed?
that the staffing study, when I was asked in January, I said that I support a consultant coming in. I am thrilled that you have picked a consultant, but part of my comment is that in the same way that you would not have budget meetings without Dave Ware being present, in the same way that you would not have discussions about roadway improvements without Mark Miller being present, I find it concerning that I have not been involved in a considerable amount of the meetings between the townships, the police commission, et cetera, in selecting a consultant. I'm responsible for the police department, but I'm being excluded from the process by which decisions are being made. And that's very concerning to me. I know Cody, and again, I don't get into a lot of police commission business in these meetings, but I sent an email to the police commission expressing my concern that I wanted to be involved. I wanted to help select a consultant, and yet I was not. I was told that, no, that is the decision of the police commission. But the joint boards also met to review recommendations from the police commission, and I was excluded from that meeting.
Yes.
It is very difficult to run a police department when you're not privy to the conversations about the operations of the police department.
Operations, we're not at liberty to discuss what we discussed. And so we're going to end that component of it here. There are a few other comments.
Well, just a logistical point is that, Eric Daigle said he would like to have his initial meeting in July. I don't know why we would have jumped to conclusions on specifics of the schedule without having him down here, at least having a conversation, even if we have to do a Zoom to discuss the challenges of the calendar that you're talking about, and then circle back to see if adjustments need to be made. So from that standpoint, I think it's too early to say this is definitely the schedule and this is definitely what we're sticking to. And the consultant's going to come down here and start on day one. I think we need to talk to them, and you talk to them, and then we'll all talk to them, and then we'll see if, it makes sense to adjust from there. I think it's a little early to say based on the fact that we haven't had a joint meeting yet with Eric.
But the email that you sent indicated that you were looking at mid-July
For an
and
initial,
possibly late July.
for an initial meeting, just like a meeting of the minds to get the process started, not anything beyond that. I didn't say anything beyond. that.
Okay, I think that we need to allow the public to have their opportunity as well. So if the chief wants to stick around for any comments or questions that anybody has, you're welcome to do so. But if anybody in the audience here in the room has any questions regarding this study and spending up to $25,000 for this staffing model study, please do feel free to come up and ask your questions.
My understanding is that it was up to 50,000.
$25,000 will be spent by each township. And there will be a cap on it. Thank you. Is there any question in the room or any comment regarding the study? Is there anybody in the Zoom room with regard to this topic? Was a comment or question? See none? Are there any other questions here on the board? Calling vote, all those in favor of spending money on the Daigle Group for the RFP for WeGo? Aye.
Aye.
Five ayes. Thank you.
And I'll make a comment.
Certainly.
I see David Shuey in the room, and I want to acknowledge that David was the first one, at least, to speak to me about doing such a study, and David, we finally got it done.
Well, at least we've got it started. So moving along, we're going to ask Grant to come on up, please. Good evening. One of the first things I'm going to ask before you even start is, can you please reassure us that you have other options in place for security for this fair? Other than just WeGo Police,
Thursday,
okay?
security operations.
Excellent,
So we'll know more after that.
perfect.
We, when we had our executive session with West Town, the West Town supervisors, that came to
Yeah,
discussion too. And,
since
we're all concerned about it.
we'd all appreciate, making sure that we've discussed this with you as well.
Appreciate that.
So for the monthly operations report for May, the Ocean Fire Company responded to 48 fire calls, 34 fire police calls, 388 EMS calls, for a total of 470 responses per month. Police Ocean had 26 fire calls, 14 fire police calls, and 188 EMS calls. Our total calls are running about 5% above last year. Our calls are up 8%, and EMS calls are up 5%. Automatic fire alarms are running at about 40% of our total calls. That's actually down from 45% during the same period last year. And that's largely due to a 13% year-over-year drop in automatic alarms in the state. So I want to give a shout out to when you've been working with some of the facilities.
Are we getting, are we finding the people for
Yes.
the? Okay, okay, just so everybody knows, the fire alarm comes in, the trucks go out, the guys go out. And, a lot of times, 40% of the time, it's not a real emergency, it's, one of the alarms just going off. We will continue to find people.
Base Ocean has a pretty robust alarm ordinance for backing up. Obviously, first and second one are
Lot of,
yeah. But if it continues, necessarily.
Good, thank you.
What causes them to go off?
By and large, it's a single occurrence of residence, so you associated with cooking or something. The repeat offenders are just faulty alarm systems that they don't know the fix.
and usually those are in either business or there are a lot of alarms at Wellington and Bellingham.
Assisted living, so
Yeah, big tough.
They've done construction recently in the past year and stuff, so they didn't take adequate precautions to fix those situations, and their personnel weren't told what they should and shouldn't do. So it just kept happening again and again and again.
Grant, I wanted to ask you, I was looking at the EMS data and there were 90 falls for lift assist. How many of those occurred in a private home? Do you have any idea?
I don't, I can let you know.
I'd be really interested to know the breakdown of how many of those are happening in a private home versus an assisted living or other facility. And then the other question,
The majority's not a significant number in purchase.
okay,
People
that's fine,
independently
independently living.
don't have state there.
And then I don't know if it's possible, are we able to get a breakdown of full-time or part-time employees versus volunteer hours for the man hours, for fire and, fire police and EMS? Is that
Yeah, so
possible?
I, off the top of my head, the vast majority of EMS hours are per check.
They are, okay. And fire,
Fire, 75, 25, volunteer,
okay. And then,
fire police is 75.
well, yeah. With the, breakdown of volunteer versus career, are most of the career running EMS? They all do. All career can run EMS.
And
So they're firefighters as well as EMS.
yes, we do have some EMT.
Okay.
Just from EMS.
Okay,
But the full timers are all fire and EMS.
okay,
And most people have that.
great. Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Barbara, do you have?
Another question related to the 90 calls. I was given an indication when I did a ride along with WeGo that a number of those calls were to Wellington and Bellingham. I was wondering if there's a way to track how many of those are repeat calls, and if there's a way to engage in some education to help people know how to plan for needs so that they don't have repeat calls for call assist from police. and fire.
So most of them are in independent living units, which is essentially an apartment. They don't have stay care. They just live there. And a lot of them, there's a million. So You can guess from the numbers that our folks know those folks very well. They know there a lot, they know it's a husband with something and the wife is trying her best, or it's a wife with something and a husband is trying their best. And they just don't make the transition to a skill, they stick it out as long as they can. Don't know other than to, Department of Aging, with the county, sometimes they have to lean on them to help convince somebody that they can better situation. And what really makes you, but we have to go in.
Well, thank you very much. Anybody, Cody, do you have any questions? No, we're good. Thank you so much. And the Mother's Day event, the Mother's Day flower event.
Went very well.
Went well.
Yeah, good sold out. Like, other things to work on with that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Have a good
Brad.
night, Grant.
Thanks, Grant.
Derek? Malvern.
So Malvern and
Malvern
Good Fellowship is in the packet, Madam Chair. Nobody is here to represent either right now.
Right,
So they are there if anybody wants to read it at their leisure.
thank you. And moving along, we have no public hearings, so the financial report. We'll get some of this business out of the way and then we'll get into the meat of the business.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As of May 31st, net of pass-throughs, our general fund had year-to-date revenues of $7,232,567 and expenses of $5,519,464 for a net result positive of $1,713,103. As of May 31st, 2024, the general fund balance was $7,738,542. Versus the budget, our year-to-date rate, May revenue finished 1.8%, $132,000 under budget. That was due to alarm fees, insurance proceeds, summer program fees, partially offset budget shortfalls in real estate property tax, real estate transfer collections. Additional WEGO contribution is the largest single revenue shortfall projected and budgeted continued throughout 2024. Current estimate for the full year shortfall is between $450,000, which we will cover from a transfer from existing general fund balance, and we haven't had to do that ever, as far as I know.
Hold on, Dave.
Yes, sir.
450 to 400 to 450. That's not all we got. Well-
36 a month.
I thought what Thornbury was paying was $634,000 a year.
It was higher than that. It's over 650, but we have 55.4%. Plus there was additional, the MMO increase, plus the staff, salary increases and benefit increases.
Even if it was $650,000, we don't make up all of that.
It's 54.5%.
Okay, well, what's 54.5% of the $650,000?
It's over 325,000.
Yeah, and that's an annual number. You're giving us a number here of $400 to $450,000, and we're not even halfway into the year.
No, this is the full year number.
Is
We're
it a full year
185,000.
projection?
Because it's on every one of these reports that I do. So you can see that it's 185,000 year to date.
Yeah,
And then I wanted to extrapolate that into what we're looking at full year, so you have an expectation of, okay, we're 185,000 short now, but by the end of the year, we will be between 400 and 450,000 short.
I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Sure. Year-to-date May expenses are 0.6% or $33,000 over budget. District court expenses, IT services and engineering services were budgeted aggressively and are driving unfavorable variance, although 33,000 is doing pretty good. It's the revenue issue. It's gonna be a problem. Prior year-to-date May 2024 is $386,000 higher than our year-to-date 2023. And that's due to our summer program signups, insurance claims and dividends, building permits and alarm fees, and expenses are up $594,000 versus prior year, driven primarily by WEGO cost increases for East Ocean. Any questions on the detailed financial report? Fund balances?
Dave, I just had one question real quick about the ARPA fund, the 33,000, that's, we don't expect anything more. That's like basically, we don't have anything budgeted for that, right?
Correct.
I just want to make sure that I couldn't remember if that was the final number or not.
Yeah, no, the board approved the last thing we spent on it was, for the generator for the, River Creek plant. And, this is what we have left over.
Okay, thank you.
So we're looking for ideas.
I was gonna say, what are we permitted to use it for?
We can use it for anything
use it for
except
anything.
paying off debt.
Okay,
And, there's a couple of other caveats, but almost anything. They changed the rules early on to say that instead of just doing sewer projects, you could do any kind of revenue replacement.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, well, that's food for thought, so that's $32,000 to $33,000.
Yeah, we get a little more into this every month, but.
All right, moving along. Let's go to the minutes, for May 7th and May 21st.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a quick amendment or a quick change to the May 7th minutes, page 3, line 32. As you know, I'd love to adjourn the meeting, but it also says I seconded that, so I don't know who seconded that night, but it's page 3, line 35. I don't know, give that credit to someone else or take me, whatever.
Cody, you could have seconded it, it would have been fine.
You're you're pretty quick.
I am going to
I
make
think
a
that's-
couple of other amendments as well.
I think that's-
Page 1, under May 7th, page 1, line 23, personnel is spelled, incorrectly, so we'll have that fixed, and then also the same minutes, but page 3, line 2. The board agreed to remove June 4th as a meeting, but we did not agree to November 19th, it's November 5th. And December 3rd is what I recollect, and went back to double check the calendar, just so you know.
That's the one I missed.
That's okay, yeah, that's no problem. So November the 5th and December the 3rd, we've decided to eliminate those
Michelle
dates.
very happy. She likes to do this.
Madam Chair, with those changes, I move that we pass the minutes of the May 7th and the May 21st, May 21st meeting minutes.
Thank you. That was good, he made that motion and he seconded it too. Are there any comments from anybody in the room or in the Zoom room? Seeing none, I'm gonna call the question. Those in favor of passing the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so moving along here, I am going to shuffle something around and then we'll get to the, oh, I'm sorry, treasurer's report. Sorry, I meant to do treasurer's report, Dave. So go ahead and do that.
I think I'm putting attached the treasury report for weeks, May 16th, 2024 through June 13th, 2024. All of our tax collections, the interest income, quarterly franchise fees, permits, parks and rec registrations and rent drove our general fund revenue during this period. And our expenses included the monthly WEGO contribution, our annual fire and EMS contributions, insurance payments, tree removal, summer program and class costs, traffic signal maintenance and repair, vehicle maintenance and repair, district court expenses, IT expense, annual auditing costs, and routine operational expenses. $162,000 of capital reserve fund expenditures included a dump body, truck lights and equipment, spreader, broom, and plow, Kubota loader, and parts and work to replace the front doors of the township building. Excuse me. The bond fund expenses included $183,000 for mill dam construction costs and materials for the in-house development of the walking trail. And we had an infrastructure sustainability fund expenses of included $4,000 for pond treatment, maintenance, and repair.
Thank you, Dave. Do I have the motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the receipts and approve the expenditures as presented in the expenditure registered and summarized in the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Cody. Second.
Dave, I just had one thing that you and I already talked about on the phone, but to bring everyone's awareness, page 1 about our trees for Arbor Day, the one white oak and one black gum.
Yeah.
It's listed here for ESAC, but unfortunately we moved to conservancy. And he did check last year, we did charge conservancy budget too.
Yeah, we'll reclass that.
Because we talked about in a conservancy meeting that we thought we were getting billed from conservancy, so.
I don't say.
Are there any other questions or things that anybody had, wanted to point out? Are there any questions regarding the bills in the room or in the Zoom room? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of paying the bills? Aye. Thank you. All right, so we're not gonna shuffle. We're gonna keep Highland Avenue, and then after Highland Avenue, we're going to go to the 1143 North Chester zoning hearing board application. So, just so you know. All right, so we'll go ahead and discuss the Highland Avenue ballot result. Derek?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So another topic we've been discussing for quite a few months, so I won't get into it too much as far as the past, but traffic concerns, both volume and speed on Highland Avenue. Residents have been in touch with me since late fall, and then we've been talking about this at various board meetings since January, I believe. So at the last board meeting, it was decided that the board liked the best, there was various plans put out there by the Benoni. It was decided that the one the board gravitated to was 3 speed humps, more equally spaced than they are now. And that is actually in the packet here. And that was the one Michael Schneider, I think, recommended the most, but also put out there a few different options because there really wasn't an engineer question. It was more of a policy one and what the board wanted to do. So based on the feedback of that meeting, we did have a ballot, and the ballot is also in the packet. And it read for option 1 for that additional speed bump and altering the location of the remaining 2 for optimal spacing, or option 2, which was essentially do nothing and keep the traffic calming measures in place as it was. And I will say pretty overwhelmingly, the residents, there was 17 votes total. I think there was 25 or 26 ballots sent out. I have to check, but there was 17 responses and there was 12 for the change. And there was 5 against doing anything. So that came out to 70.5% of the total residents wanting the change. So I know the board was looking for that threshold based on a similar threshold used when the original 2 speed humps were put in. So that being said, I still need the board to give me some go ahead tonight on doing that. I'd prefer to have an answer tonight just because we're getting into paving season and Highland is on the schedule, so it'll make things a lot easier. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move we authorize Township Manager and Public Works Directors to move forward with the new 3-speed hump design set forth by our engineer and have it incorporated in the Highland Avenue repavement project.
Thank you.
The only thing I will add, we did have a further traffic study on Taylor Avenue. I know the results are in. I've been trying to chase down Michael Schneider for the results. Haven't gotten them in. So when I do, hopefully, definitely next meeting, we can discuss that as well, because the board tasked me with that.
Is Taylor on for repaving as well?
Don't know the answer to that. I gotta talk to Mark. It's a good question.
I didn't think you asked that before.
Will we have, once the 3-speed humps are in, will we have any kind of test of whether we slow traffic down?
Set the board's prerogative. I don't have one scheduled, but if the board wants to do that, we can do that.
All right, are there any questions regarding this plan with the board members? Barbara, do you have any questions? Cody? You? No, good. Are there any questions or comments with anybody here in the room? Or on the Zoom room?
I don't see anybody.
Okay, so as proposed with the 3 humps spaced according to the engineer's plan, then we will go ahead and get those speed humps installed and they'll be correct. They'll be done correctly this time. So I'm gonna call that to question. Those in favor of the speed bumps?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so there we go. You've got your speed humps.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good job on 70%.
Yep, just barely squeaked it out. All right.
Now you can put the kids to bed, huh?
You're welcome. You're welcome. No problem.
Yeah.
You'll have to keep us informed, let us know how it goes. All right, let's go ahead and shuffle up the zoning hearing board application. With the Schroders, it's the 1143 North Chester Road. Request for variance on the 6-foot fence in the frontage.
Thank you,
So,
Madam Chair. There will be a zoning hearing on this in, I believe, July 2nd.
Okay.
I think. Anyway, this is a zoning hearing board application, as with all zoning hearing board applications. Even though the board does not vote on it, we give it to the board to give their opinion, whether they want to be for it, against it, stay neutral. This is a variance for a fence height for 6-foot fence in the front yard. By code, it should be 4 feet. I will say, looking over the application for the owners at 1143 North Chester, there are on that specific road, although not in the front, there's a lot of fencing that you can see up and down that is over that threshold. So this is that application, and the board can ask questions. It looks like the owners are here, so fire away.
Thank you for allowing me to speak there. As you know, I'm seeking dimensional variance from the East Ocean Township Code.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you please state your name for the record?
My apologies. My name is
Just your name.
James Schroeder.
Thank you.
I'm here with my wife,
Perfect.
Kate Schroeder.
Thank you.
We live in Oregon.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure that was part of the record.
Thank you. And the code says that fences and walls that are erected within front yard shall now exceed a height of 4 feet. And requesting variance to this requirement as a privacy fence and a sound barrier fence, that it would be 6 feet in my front yard for the following reasons. I have been a resident of East Goshen Township for 25 years, and during that 25 years, Route 352, also known as North Chester Road, just went from a road up to now a major thoroughfare. When I moved to this area, originally Route 30, 202 were at stoplight. Now it's bypass and everything. The rural road and the traffic has increased tremendously. And so it has a traffic noise. And in the selection of the road of my front property is also on an incline on Route 352. As a result of this, whenever traffic is northbound on my road, they just so happen to accelerate when they are in front of my property, thus increasing the sound coming from all the cars. This is most prevalent, if not exclusively, to my lot. This tends to level out to my north and south. Historically, I used to have a sound barrier on my property, which was pine trees. But due to the stress of the tree trimming people, the trees eventually died due to stress and the bugs that came and attacked the trees once they were stressed. But due to the location near the street and the power lines, we considered other ideas for a sound barrier, privacy kind of barrier, and there was no practical organic option. And what I mean by practical is defined by realizing something that benefits in a reasonable amount of time. We did install an earthen mound erected to help aid in the visual presentation of our front yard and also allows softer soil because it's clay normally for additional plants and to make the whole area nice. And it was on this earthen mound that a privacy fence was placed. My family now has grandkids, thank you very much. And we have 3 dogs, which a privacy and a sound barrier is very beneficial. And we would like to keep both our family and our dogs both safe visually and barrier-wise from the traffic on 352. The fence that is currently erected, which is 6 feet, which is modifiable to 4 feet if things don't work out. The fence that is erected is 6 feet, is of high quality, and is estimated to outlast our lifetime and will require little to no additional maintenance. It is made from recycled plastic vinyl, and it should be noted that the exact same fence is also located about 2 or 3 blocks north on the same road. And this was the inspiration of getting the fence that we selected. The location of the sound barrier is not in dispute by the township. It is the height of the fence, 4 feet versus 6 feet. The setback remains, whether it be 4 feet or the setback remains the same and does not impede on any visual line of sight of the traffic and still, provide some, lawn for aesthetics in front of the fence.
Mr. Schroeder, if I could just, stop you there for a moment. We do have the rest of the information on that page. And so I appreciate that. So rather than make you recite all of it, I think that the question I have is, does anybody on the board have an objection to being in support? Can we make a motion? We can make a motion.
Yeah, you can make a motion.
So I would actually, at this point, stay right where you are though. I would make a motion that we pass this to the zoning hearing board with our recommendation to allow the Schroders to have the 6-foot fence.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Should be noted that the planning commission did the same thing.
Yes, so the planning commission did the same thing. Does anybody on the board have any questions regarding this request? Barbara, go to your good.
No, thanks for coming out.
Are there any questions about the 6-foot fence if you're in the room? Do you have any issues? Are there any questions on the Zoom room? So I didn't mean to cut you off, but hey, we're gonna call this vote. So all those in favor of passing this to zoning hearing board with our approval, aye?
Aye.
There we go. All right.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice night.
Have a good night. I hope you're gonna stick around for some of it though. All right, now we're gonna try to go in order from here, because we've already done the appointment of the Daigle Wall Group, and we can do the discussion and possible vote on the township sewer rate increase.
Well, before a motion is made, a point of order, Madam Chair.
What is that?
I do not understand the motion. I thought we were talking about $30, $20, $40. That's not in here. What I'm seeing is a $5 increase for the fixed rate and a $2 increase to the variable rate. How does that match up with what we talked about last time?
So the instruction last time was basically how much money do we need? A $30 flat fixed rate.
No, it wasn't. It was, how much money do we want to hit people with?
Well, and this is a variable way to do that, so that every single person doesn't get hit with a flat fixed rate. Instead, the average will be about $30. So the combination of the fixed rate and the variable rate changes will provide the same amount of revenue, which was the target of the analysis for the 10-year projection.
So on this page here.
So essentially, you're not putting all your eggs in the fixed rate basket. That's the
Correct.
best way
But
to put it.
It abnormally hurts people. It overly stresses people who are in an apartment or they're a single couple in a family home that use 5,000 gallons of water. If you use less water under this plan, you control your own destiny with your bill, essentially.
So Dave, looking at this chart, this green chart,
Yes.
I'm curious because I see the condos. Do we have, is there another chart that I'm missing that shows what what the increase is gonna look like for everywhere else? Did I
Yeah,
miss
well,
that?
There's an average single family is the very first line of that.
Oh,
the
average
same
single
chart.
family.
That's a
Average
single family
S-
dwelling is SFD.
SFD.
So then I wanted to show that single family homes typically use more water. The average is 12,500. Actually, it looks like the most recent water usage we got is about 12,350. So everybody's bill should be lower than what I expect. But I wanted to show Summit House, the apartments, all the types of dwellings that we have here and show that some of the people that are living in apartments aren't necessarily going to be hit as hard because they don't use as much water and they're less stressed to the system. And the first way was very easy to do a fixed rate full across the board increase, but that abnormally hits people that typically they don't have equity in the house, plus they don't own their own home.
Okay, let's walk through it, Dave. You know I love the numbers.
Okay. So our current rate is $176.86 on average for a single family dwelling. This would put us up to an average of $210.61 per quarter. That's still below what we would have had to do after 2 years of not having ARPA funds and still paying for the Hershey State Sewer. That would have been $212.64. The average quarterly single family dwelling cost since 2012 has increased $5.54 a year per quarter, year after year. So it seems like a lot at once, just like the other one did, but it's because we haven't had steady increases over the years. We're actually just gonna catch up and pass inflation rates for that same period of time. This will get us to the total sewer fund balances, which I was projecting, which initiated the $30 per quarter average rate, which you can see on the final slide with the sewer fund. And carrying this out closer to 20, and that's where the debt drops off, the primary debt, the sewer fund. So I think between now and then, we'll have an opportunity with the additional relining, which is essentially maintenance. This will let us replace everything on the Ridley Creek treatment plant, which needs to be done probably optimistically by 2030. That will be the full life cycle. I talked to the municipal authority about it. We bore out those numbers with ENR research and standard industry statistics. So our inventory depreciation timeline is correct. And then we can do additional lining as seen fit to repair things and maintain things before they become a multi-million-dollar fix.
All right, so let's take the average single family dwelling. Their fixed rate is gonna go up from 55.61 to 60.61 under this proposal.
Correct.
And the variable rate, you show it as $9.70 going to $12.
Yes.
So that takes the 121.25 to 150. And they end up paying monthly 210.61. Quarterly.
Yeah, that's quarterly, yeah.
What is this pound quarterly increase? Is that dollars?
Yes, that's going from an average of 120 or from 176.86
To the 210.
to the 210. That's the difference between the two.
All right, we were aiming for a $30 increase. How does this average out? Do you have any idea?
It averages to $30 with between all residents
Between all residents?
on sewer,
$30.
yes.
Okay,
All residents on public sewer. And just so you guys know, I just got notified 3 weeks ago, Aqua just raised their rates 25%.
well, we'll pat ourselves on the back again for not going to Aqua and selling out for millions of dollars.
Well, it's gonna cost the township more money. It's in our regular bills and
Regular
hydrants
bills?
and everything. I mean,
Okay.
Pico prices go up, the whole goes up. I mean, we see the same thing that everybody sitting at home is seeing on a regular day basis.
We still own our system.
We do.
Still in our system.
And I think we can. This is the first step towards really, locking that in until 2030. We've got great people at the municipal authority weighing in on this stuff. Mark Miller in the Public Works Department does a great job, keeping costs down. If we went on third party like other townships, we would pay 60% more.
Oh, I agree. I think you're right. Okay, I'm good on that page. The ending balance, how are you figuring this? We have green and blue one.
So the blue is if we have no increase, and the green is if we increase it with the projected variable and fixed increases that are in the packet. This is using estimates of. It's a 3% to 5%. I believe it's 5%. Essentially a cost of inflation, but you have to use construction index.
across the board because all the sewer work is much more construction related, which involves skilled labor, construction material supply. There's a lot more factors involved as opposed to just a CPIU. So it's not just a regular inflation rate. And then also including the projected income that we could get from this increase. And that's why it grows slightly and then it tapers back down. And that's assuming these rates stay consistent. This is assuming that we have no catastrophic failures.
Okay, and the green is the $30 increase, then, right?
Correct.
So we're essentially good to 2030.
I believe so at this point without any massive failures so far.
Well, I hope to be here, but I don't know. But the numbers look good. And I appreciate the amount of work that goes into this. I'm gonna pretend I understand what you just said about the construction index and everything like that. But the numbers look good. You said $30 and that's, I think, what it comes out to.
Yeah, the construction index going back over, it's basically just an index that's kind of like an inflation index, but instead of just being the cost of gas, housing, groceries, that kind of stuff that everybody uses every day. It's really the materials that are used in construction, the skilled labor that's involved in construction, and those are definitely always higher. I mean, back over the last 10-year period that I've looked at, it's well over 5% average. And I used the 5% for this. So I'm still optimistic, but knowing that the debt drops off for us at 2030 and 2031, it gives me hope that we get the next 4 or 5 years in and we can look and see that, okay, it's not as expensive, or we can adjust as we need to. Hopefully we don't have any more bad things like Hershey Mill happen, but this will help us do the relining, which, think about it like your house. It's always, should I do routine maintenance on my car, or should I wait until something happens and then I have to pay $2,000 bill as opposed to a $50?
Dave,
Yes,
I just want to say, I appreciate that you did both a fixed rate and a variable rate, so that those who are in smaller dwellings and use less water are given a little bit of a break and not paying the flat rate that those who are consuming more water living in larger homes.
thanks.
I appreciate that.
I think East Goshen's done a pretty good job looking back through the last 15 years on probably not increasing as much as we should, which is why we have a funding gap now, but they've always tried to be equitable, splitting fixed and variable costs and determining how much system could bear and how much people should have to pay for what they're using.
Madam Chair, I want to make a motion that we approve the $5 increase to the fixed rate from 55.61 to 60.61. And the $2.30 increase the variable rate from $9.70 to $12 to be implemented in the July third quarter 2024 quarterly bill.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, John.
Are we good with that July bill? That's soon.
I was just gonna ask if, I know originally we had talked about sending a letter out to the residents about informing them prior to, I don't know if we're still doing that, if we're just gonna include it on the statement.
No, we can flip that around quickly.
Okay,
I think it'd be nice to have
an explanation.
Yeah, we'll work on it this week.
thank you.
Okay,
And this is all,
I'll put something in the newsletter too from my perspective.
We can also put a blast on the website. We can hit a lot of different ways, and anybody who
Constant-
calls, in, I
constant
can have,
contact.
yeah, I can have Jennifer let them know that they will be changing. I've already got a couple of people that are, have called me asking about it, because I've had conversations with people that are in a, more financial, dire straits, some of them, but, what's it gonna look like, and what would that bill be? So I'm getting calls as well.
Okay. Any other board members with questions? Peter, do you have any questions or comments? Are there any questions or comments regarding the rate increase in the room?
Madam Chair, I just have one comment too.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is my plea to Chris Pielli to give us $100,000 like he did West Goshen for their sewer plant.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, I actually
Come on
have,
up, Dana.
I actually have a meeting scheduled next week with Mark Miller and Mike Ennis from Benoni, and we are gonna go through, kind of this 10-year plan. We're gonna lay out the capital improvements, the relining schedule, and that way we can keep people updated on, this is your neighborhood coming up. We're gonna be doing stuff in there. And then also come up with a plan to go out for grant funding and make it kind of bulletproof, so the biggest problem usually with grants is you scramble, but you have to have everything scoped out, you have to have price estimates, you have to have all that stuff, but then by the time they make a decision, it's 2 years past when you needed it. So if I have something that I can look 10 years out, I can go, well, we missed it this time, but I have the same plan. I just use that blueprint and I send it for every opportunity I could find.
That's great. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dana, thank you.
Yeah, I'm Dana Pizarro with the Scotia Municipal Authority. Before everyone gets real happy here, just remember that the money budgeted in the graph you just showed is $250,000 a year. We estimate it's going to be $500,000 a year. So don't get real happy. This is going to last till 2030.
I don't think anybody's happy.
Yeah.
We're-
I was gonna say, don't
Yeah,
think
we're,
that
I
happened.
think we're aware of it.
I think it's also important to remember that township has substantial obligations under the lease agreement. We only function as a financial institution. You're really just funding your own operations with your rate increase. So keep that in mind, because if there's something catastrophic, you're gonna have to jump on it. It's, look at the lease agreement sometime.
Who negotiated that lease agreement?
I don't know, before my time on the board.
Does it ever run out?
Yeah, usually if they come back up, it's notes, so we have a 2008 and a 2013 note. So at different stages, they gotta get refinanced or that drops off. In different periods, we've had, renegotiations when they came up.
Yeah, current lease agreement is the fourth one in 2008. But it's important, I think, to supervisors take a look at that lease agreement. And this is a substantial business operation, but maybe it's $4 million a year.
Yeah, it could be a lot more.
Yeah. So supervisors need to be focused on this one. This is a substantial operation, significant requirements for the public works guys. We're asking a lot of them, but frankly, a lot of our increase that we're asking for is funding them to do the job, to find out where the problems are before we get catastrophic. I think we had a chart one time showing how much more we asked of them.
Yeah.
And it is skyrocketed over the last couple of years. So we're really just funding public works.
Yeah, and we get the recharge back using our own people, so it benefits the general fund for all taxpayers, but it also benefits having lower costs because Aqua uses their own people, third-party people, and they charge going rates, plus they add 10% because they have to be 10% over EBITDA. That's the earnings before income tax.
And obviously,
We break even.
we benefit substantially from that because we don't have to keep a full-time staff. We're splitting between public works and sewer work. And, we don't, it's a pretty lean and mean organization in that past.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of them in my career. I spent 40 years doing wastewater plants.
What is your opinion of the, our partner in West Coast?
We've had to hawk it. We've been to a lot of meetings. I can tell you, when I first started the process, Kevin went with me, and I looked at the numbers they've had, and I go, and I've done a lot of estimating for sewage treatment plants. So, and I said they needed a 35% contingency. I don't care if they have final plans. Because when you start on an old plant like that one, the moment of truth is the back end. You don't know what you're getting to. You start taking stuff apart, excavating and doing other stuff there. So, that's where some of the surprises occurred, which, we've had to deal with.
Man, we need to get some rock and roll on
We could use some, I'm sure. All would go best for this meeting.
Yeah, I mean, just in the last couple, just to talk about the West Goshen bills, the operating and maintenance alone for this, their facility that we pay because we can use up to 1 million gallons, a day. And we're 100, was it 100? We're well below, we're about 70% typically where we could be. But we went from about, when I started, $160,000 a quarter, and it's $215,000 now. And that's not because of their budget numbers, it's because of the amount of water that we're sending. And so we are currently looking with Mark, and part of it's with Mike Ellis, and possibly installing the meters to try and see if there's more, INI, so the infiltration that's getting into our system from regular groundwater,
Mhm.
which you don't need to treat.
Right.
So we want to find those problems as well.
You know, Mark made some substantial headway in the reservoir system down the western pump station in
Yeah.
that region there. We were concerned a couple of years ago that we were going to exceed our 1,000,000 gallons limit there. Because we were up in the 900,000 gallons a day, and Mark has, with his concerted efforts, have driven that down, so there's if you can get a 10-to-1 payback for the effort, you're doing well, and I think he's probably exceeded that, although I haven't analyzed that correctly.
I want to make sure that you are all aware too, that, Mark he has every intention of getting a meter on, on our side, to check the flow and make sure that it does match the numbers of West Goshen. That's what.
Yeah, I'm just gonna swap it out, and make sure that the one that we have going is accurate.
Right.
We check ours and they check theirs, and they're in the same spot essentially, but,
Yeah, that's important, because
Stuff
like
like
you
that.
tell in places like the city of Philadelphia, which get a lot of help from outlying townships, they have a specific meter shop where they do it on a regular basis, certifying their meters and making sure they're accurate.
Thank you for your comments
Thank you,
and
Dan.
thanks, Dan.
your work on this, Dana.
Thank you for your work. Let the municipal authority, all of the guys know how much we appreciate what they're doing.
Thanks to this guy.
I know, Gabriel.
I appreciate you guys.
Mr. Numbers, yes.
Is there anybody else in the room who has any questions regarding the sewer rate increase? Is there anybody in the Zoom room who has a question regarding the rate increase? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. Those in favor of the increase?
All right,
Reluctantly, aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your efforts. We really do appreciate it. All right, moving along to the long range. You know what?
we're gonna move again.
I was gonna say, how about we do some other stuff and then we'll get back to Dave.
It's fine.
All right, yeah, let's shuffle Dave to the bottom. Let's go to 301 Reservoir Road, the preliminary plan passage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is, again, preliminary plan review for Timber Mill, also known as 301 Reservoir Road. We were already briefed on this a little bit during the conditional use last year, I believe, or was it March?
This year.
Was it this year? I'm losing track of time. So the board did already see this project in the conditional use hearing, but this is actual land development now, and they are seeking preliminary plan approval, which planning commission already supported. So we have somebody here representing the plan, so we can discuss it.
My name is Michael Cowan with Commonwealth Engineering.
Would you speak directly into the microphone? It's a one directional microphone, sorry.
My name is Michael Cowan with Commonwealth Engineers representing Timber Mill. And I can go through a brief overview of the project, or you can kind of jump right into it. Timber Mill is looking to subdivide the property at 31 Reservoir Road into 5 lots, and construct a private cul-de-sac road to access these lots. There will be stormwater management, kind of not per lot, but generalized for the whole development, stormwater management. And we were before the planning commission to present. They did give us recommendation to come to the board. And then so here we're looking for a preliminary plan approval with and then approval of the 2 waivers that we requested.
What were the waivers?
First waiver was for the road width of 20 feet, or we would like to do a road width of 20 feet compared to 22 feet, which the ordinance requires. And then the second was the disturbance or of the trees or woods within the property.
Wayne, besides being codes, you also have fire. What do you think of 20 versus 22 feet?
That's the minimum width that they could do. That's why they were held at 20 feet. Originally came in at 18 feet.
Yeah, it was fire.
For fire purposes, we increased it.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question.
Grant, do you guys ever have a problem with a 20-foot road width that you're aware of?
It's mostly on first cul-de-sacs. We provide our primary disinformation and it's a calculate that. 20 feet, or speaking of the limit, parking is allowed. Roadway. We have to make sure the property is on.
Yeah, we're doing that, aren't we?
That's fire marshal.
No part.
Review.
Yeah.
Yeah, as fire marshals do a full review of the fire code. So the fire code gives us limits and parameters to do. The cul-de-sacs, I run a largest truck that we have in the township, around that cul-de-sac. Sure that's gonna be turn it to that radius without any. hindrance. If it's a hindrance, then you need to increase the size again. The road in this case is gonna be a private road. They're at a minimum of 20 feet. So they are required to post it a fire lane, no parking on either side. So there'll be no parking on the street.
Are we roll curved on this?
This is roll curve.
Okay.
They will also be installing a fire hydrant down at the access road, along Reservoir. That was a requirement of this subdivision in the review. And the road itself, I know Michelle, you questioned it, they're built to township standards and they have to meet the fire code standard of a minimum of 75,000 pounds for the truckload. So.
Does that depend on standards as well?
I did review that with Mark. Our township standards that they have to meet exceed size.
That's fine.
So
So at some point, if they decided that they didn't want to own
we can
this
take that.
any longer, with some negotiation, we could take back this road. So they're going to build it to township standard.
Correct.
Township standard is 22 feet.
The only thing that's not township standard is 20. That's why they're looking at that.
Fire code is 20 feet, township code is 22.
Correct. And talking to Mark Miller, Public Works Director, he looked at that same plan
Okay,
and everything is the standard except for the 22 that they're asking for variance.
okay.
The waiver for it. It's up to you guys to approve that. He did not have an issue with that in my conversation.
Well, and what, just,
But- Question.
go ahead, sorry.
In my reading of this, I kept seeing no plans for signage, no plans for signage. So the 20-foot variance, where does it indicate in here that there's gonna be that signage for no parking?
If there's a note on the plan.
Okay, I may have missed that, but I saw several comments about no plans for signage. So I was just curious, if we're voting on it, I wanted to be certain that no parking signage was
Absolutely.
in place.
Who checks that at the end? You?
I do.
I thought so.
And
Okay.
I got in their review letter that said it was gonna be stated. So
Okay. You mentioned that it's a private road.
they're gonna be doing a private road. That's what they're proposing at this point.
At the planning commission meeting, I was at a couple of them, there was discussion of that. I thought we were going to get the road.
No, it's always been from when they brought it in. it's gonna
Okay.
be a private.
We don't,
If there's cars parked on the street, are there gonna be trees planted off the street far enough for trucks to get around if they had to get around the car?
If there's cars parked in the street, then the police will be informed that they'll be taken for it.
But if you have a car there and there's a fire,
That's right.
you don't have to take it on its own. You'll be able to get around the car, like no trees will be planted, some of the feet from the road.
That I don't know. We're gonna have to look at. the
You know what I'm saying? So in case there is a car, you can get around still.
Thank you.
I know what they do. too.
Or, or trucks, the road, leaving the roadway is not usually an option
I know it's not an option,
because of the
but
weight.
yes,
So, yes, I mean, that would be something we would have to.
or at
enforce.
least, even though you're not gonna leave the road, the tree has to be far enough back to still stay on the road and get around.
Well, what's the landscaping plan look like? Is there trees near the right of way?
There are,
Is there gonna be enough off-street parking for people to have a party
On their property,
on their properties?
I mean, the driveways are.
Into the
available.
microphone, please, thank you.
The driveways are available, each lot is, it has enough parking for the requirements of the ordinance. Based on the number of, garages, 3-car, 2-car garage, based on that. I mean, I don't know if we can, anticipate all the requirements needed if there's part, parties are kind of, an outlier. I don't know if the ordinance does, it doesn't really address party.
Yeah, Dwayne, we need to talk about this too. Can you come up? So, I mean, just if you're having a family gathering and you have 8 people to come over and 6 cars, is there gonna be enough parking on the property?
Each driveways, some of them are up to 200 feet long. Other ones are roughly 100 to 80 feet long. Even the barn itself has an all parking lot.
Okay,
8 cars would probably be good if you're inviting 80 to 90 people. That's what
so,
but
I mean, we don't have an ordinance that says you can't invite 80 or 90 people to your house.
correct.
You get your noise ordinance, you get a porta potty in, you've got a setup, where are they gonna park? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't answer that question, but I can tell you that even
Okay.
at 22 feet, if that's what you're looking for the answer, at 22 feet, the minimum roadway 20, it only gives you 2 foot on each side of the car.
I
What's-
understand.
What's the parking specs per the zoning?
Usually width-wise,
No, as far as spot wise, amount of spots.
for residential, it's 2.
Okay.
2, that's all they're
What's the
required.
residential?
These are,
That's fine. That's fine, okay. Okay. Go ahead, continue my questions.
No, I was gonna make a motion.
Do you have anything else that you're
I
gonna
just
present?
wanted to, maybe point out, the fact that it's roll curb instead of upright curb kind of gives you an extra 2 feet or a foot on either side for vehicles to get around each other, or, I mean, we want no parking, but I mean, people could park on the grass, on the shore, on the side of the roads, and not obstruct.
Okay, well, that's not no parking, but that's fine. And then I have a question about the sewer. Is that something that we're gonna be able to go over?
Sure.
What, tonight? So is this gonna be public sewer, public water?
Yes.
So regarding that, are there gonna be trees in the right of way near the sewer connections?
That the landscape architect, that we took, had where the sewer is laid out and took and placed trees far enough away from those sewer lines. So that they would,
So there will not be any landscaping near the sewer laterals then?
near the ladder, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the 301 Reservoir Road / Timber Mill subdivision for preliminary plan approval based on the recommendations of the Township Planning Commission, Township staff, and Township Engineer.
second motion.
Thank you. All right. Was there anything else you wanted to bring to our attention, Michael?
Does that include the, I'm sorry, does that include the waivers or is that
So,
something you want to do?
I would think that if you want to include the waivers, you can call out.
Oh, okay.
so we have to specify so we would need amendment to the draft motion.
Cody, you want to amend the motion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'll amend the motion to include and to approve all of the waivers that have been requested.
Mhm. There we go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments with anybody here in the room? Dwayne, do you have any other comments or questions?
No.
Board, any other comments or questions? Anybody in the Zoom room? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. Where are we now? Let's see. I know where we are. Okay. Derek, You wanna talk about, the ESAC resignation of Christie?
Yes, 1 second, sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. So Christy Marshall, current chair of the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Council, has submitted her resignation. Christy had a lot to do with setting up ESAC and keeping it going for quite a while, so we appreciate her service and wish her well. This is basically the one, and this will be addressed in another agenda item, but this is the one chairship that has to be appointed by the Board of Supervisors. So that'll be done tonight as well, but right now looking for a draft motion to accept the resignation of Christy Marshall from ESAC.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Christy Marshall from the Environmental and Sustainability Advisory Council. And I'd like to suggest that we ask Derek to write a letter of thanks for her years of service as part of that motion.
I would second that. Thank you. We're disappointed that Christy has decided to step down, but we understand that she has commitments as well, and we appreciate all of her years of service. She still continues to serve on with the Malvern Library and in various other capacities within the township. So, you know, that she's not gone, she's just not with us in this capacity. Are there any questions regarding this resignation or the acceptance of the resignation in the room or the Zoom room or on the board? Seeing none, I'll call a question. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you. And the appointment of the new chair.
Yep, so moving right along again, this by ordinance requires the board to appoint a new chair. We did, working with Barbara, who's the liaison for ESAC. Her and I worked together to sort of solicit if anybody was interested. And Anthony Natali, current ESAC member, did come back to us and said that he was interested in serving as interim chair for the Environmental and Sustainability Advisory Council. So I'm asking for a motion on appointing Anthony to chair.
Madam Chair, I move we appoint Anthony Natali, current ESAC member, as the interim chair of the ESAC East Goshen Environmental and Sustainability Advisory Council.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions regarding this appointment on the board?
I don't know why we're making them
Interim,
That was at his
was
request, I
actually his
believe.
request.
It was his request, and the idea is that it gives the ESAC a chance to consider an open slate with moving forward, how to best be an advisory council to the Board of Supervisors, and that permanent or a regular term would be appointed first of the year with other events.
Derek, does that satisfy the requirement?
Yes.
That he's the interim chair?
Yep, I believe so. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Want to get questions on the Zoom platform or in the room? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of Anthony? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And we appreciate your willingness to step up and be in that role. And we come to the resignation of David Shuey from the Pipeline Task Force.
Thank you, Madam Chair. David Shuey did submit his resignation from the Pipeline Task Force. Just had some other commitments, couldn't give it his all on a monthly basis, but we really appreciate David's tenure with not only the Pipeline Task Force, but the Board of Supervisors, in which he was very involved in the issues going on with Mariner East Pipeline. Very vocal supporter of the residents when it came to battling the pipeline, so to speak. So we appreciate his efforts over the last how many years that he was involved, and we are asking for a motion to accept the resignation.
Madam Chair, I move we regrettably accept David Shuey's resignation from East Goshen's Pipeline Task Force and thank him for all the service and education that he has provided regarding pipeline needs and dangers to East Goshen.
I'll second the motion reluctantly.
Would you please come up to the microphone, sir? I'm sorry, but you know it's a one-directional mic. Maybe we got
Thank you.
33 grand in community money.
I intend to stay involved as a citizen, in the Pipeline Task Force, as an advocate for the township, particularly around the, two projects, so I'll stay active, I can stay informed of that.
We understand. Thank you very much
Well,
for your
I would
service.
like to add the motion that we should also have Derek write a letter to David Shuey and a very long letter. Maybe we can get Michael Lynch to put his thoughts down.
So if no one else is questioning this resignation on the board or in the room or on the Zoom platform, we'll go ahead and make our reluctant vote. Those in favor of accepting David's resignation? Aye. And we appreciate your service. Thank you. Thank you for staying involved with that as well. Let's go ahead and do the deer management program.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a resolution in order to pass this coming season's deer management program. It's been going on here at East Goshen for quite some time. There's 4 different groups that hunt 4 different tracts of land here at East Goshen. Pretty successful program. The numbers are here. Obviously, the population in this area is exploding with the deer, so it's something we continue to do. There's no changes from last year. It's the same groups, same tracts of land. So we are asking for a motion for the resolution. No, just okay. Yeah.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept and approve the 2024 DMP resolution and the 4 groups that are listed here in the package.
Thank you.
Second motion.
Thank you. I'll just note that these groups often do a really great job of making sure that they leave the land better than they have it, which is a nice thing. We clean up the areas nicely. Are there any questions regarding this motion, this resolution?
I would like to see them get more than 26 years. I got 26 in my yard.
Are there any questions regarding this motion in the room or on the Zoom platform? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Aye. Let's go ahead and hit the standing issues real quick.
No, it's
No, I didn't skip C. We're gonna get back to that in a minute.
So we have sorry, I don't identify.
Okay, Milltown?
So Milltown, the actual dam work is complete. It's just restoration needed at this point, vegetation. And Mark and his guys continue to truck along with the work that was approved earlier this year as far as the trail. That's coming along nicely. I don't know, Dave, if he's talking about an end date to that as far as at least this year, but pretty soon.
Yeah, but we also talked about, depending on the millings that he gets from, when he does the paving project, he might be able, depending on the other workload for the guys, be able to actually pave
Yeah.
trail this year.
True.
Wow.
And then we would really.
I was told Labor Day.
Yeah, and then it's just a matter of doing some plannings and see how it looks, and we can evaluate from there.
Great.
comment, Miss Chair.
Yes, sir.
A week and a half ago, I went out, because someone complained about the, Hershey Mill Trail and everything. I went out and walked through there, and by the way, I saw 3 deer. But it looked fine to me. As many of the people probably already know, we have that walkway, it's metal, it's extruded, and it has more holes in it than metal, because we were ordered to do that. As a result, the rain is able to go through, the sunlight is able to go through, and we do have some growth, a tiny bit of growth, but nothing that would trip anybody or bother anybody walking along. But that was the intention, to return it to its close to the natural state of the dam.
Mark
Yeah,
had
it's
gone
supposed
out
to be
there
a
that day.
passive park, so.
Yeah,
Well, it's more than that, though.
Oh, yeah, I know, it's far and above.
But
Yeah.
I was afraid it would be overgrown, and it's fine.
well, it was overgrown. Mark got out there that next day and we had cleaned it up.
Yeah, it's
So-
like other projects in the weather, they've had
It was the weather,
yeah.
yeah. Are there any other matters?
Just real quick for clarification, what was overgrown was the covering of the signs and the trees and everything. Got that.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to, and do we have any liaison reports? I think that we have
I
a
have
liaison.
one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just am requested by the Pipeline Commission to report to you that in February of 2022, the Public Utility Commission issued a notice of proposed rulemaking. And the Pipeline Commission presented to this board a list of responses and comments to that report. All of those comments were acknowledged by on the report, but none were adopted. But I wanted to still acknowledge that all of those comments that this board approved, that the Pipeline Committee sent to the PUC, were put onto the report in writing. And so the Pipeline Commission or Committee continues to be a watchdog for the East Goshen Township in a number of ways, and this is one of those ways. So they wanted to be sure that you knew the results of what their efforts were in submitting those comments. They were all noted, but none were acted upon.
Excellent, thank you. But you have something?
Yeah, just very briefly, we had a conservancy meeting last week. We have a vacancy on the board, and I think, I don't know how many times we have a visitor, but we had another visitor there. I sent her the application for potential membership. She lives over in Goshen Valley. And I believe that our, the conservancy board's interested in participating, or I guess we're doing a tree grant from Giant. I think that you
Yes.
sent over, Michelle. Thank you. Jason's working on that. So
That's great.
I think we'd use those trees for the Milltown Dam. Is that right, Eric?
Milltown Dam or Reservoir Road, even Sandy Side. You guys would discuss.
Or maybe I just want them near me in my neighborhood. but
There
that's-
you go. And just a quick comment about Community Day coming up on June the 29th. And that's gonna be 5 p.m. There's gonna be a lot of vendors and a lot of fun fireworks, so don't forget to come out for that. Unfortunately, Cody, we can't do number 17.
I know.
So back to Steve, under new business. Steve, do you need to take a moment before we dive in, or? Okay. Anybody else need a break before we go? Nope, all right.
What about the speed schedules?
That all went with that.
That's with the updated sewer rate.
Yeah.
That's right.
Sorry, Dave.
I'm not standing there.
So according to the East Goshen Township resolution establishing various financial policies are, which the auditors actually review, and they always applaud the internal financial policies of East Goshen. Our financial policy requires the township's general fund not to fall below 20% of annual revenues any given year, and also funding of the operating reserve at or up to 25% of annual revenues. Our current projection illustrates the issue of an increased annual expenses, primarily wages, inflation, insurance, and the big one is WeGo Fire and EMS services. While barring a housing boom or some kind of a quick demographic change that would drive up the IT collections, our revenue primarily remains flat outside of the real estate millage increase. A transfer of $444,000 from the existing general fund balance to pay for WeGo is budgeted in the current year of 2024, and costs projected in my estimates at an increase of a minimum of 3% or $150,000 to $200,000 annually. The increase in costs in 24 driven primarily by a higher MMO, which is a minimal municipal obligation, which is the long-term benefit costs of personnel and the loss of pay per service customer have already depleted the $800,000 revenue increase from the real estate tax millage increase initiated in 2023. We went from 1.25 to 1.75. Even if the police trusts were exhausted and East Goshen Township runs annual deficits, the township projects to violate our internal financial guidelines by 2029 regarding reserves and balances. So for this long-range projection exercise, I've used aggressive wage and inflation rates to illustrate the gap between the revenue and expense. And I think that this is a pretty bullish, looking at what the actual economists are saying, 2.3, 2.5%. I'm only using 2%, and I'm only using 3% for fire, 2% for fire, or 2% for fire and EMS, 3% for WeGo. So if you want to go into the, sure, but we can just go up and just look at the slides. So I've highlighted the area where, 2029, where we flipped from 20%, of revenues to 5%. And it happens quickly. There's a lot of variables in these numbers, but the trends are not very positive. Even if we held, I'm assuming we hold our wage rate at the township at 2%. We actually, have done a very good job.
Mic went up.
Years. We've actually done a good job over the years of keeping a minimum. Township increases, it's primarily fire and EMS, legal costs that are driving the changes from year to year. So, want to go to the next one? Thanks. So EIT and LST are projected flat, real estate property tax and local services, we're down, so I projected it, well, those are flat with the budget, the real estate transfer tax, the market's down. Interest rates are still up, so I'm showing a dip in the next year and then coming back up 1.5% per year. That's pretty conservative. Building permit revenue is flat with the budget, and the police trust, I'm showing that we, between 25, 26, and 27, we reduce $483,000 per year, and that would eliminate the entire police trust. So even if we did that, which is not what I'm recommending, typically I would want to do based on what we would project for interest for that year. So if our returns are about, we get $100,000 in interest on the $1.1 million that we have to balance in the trust, then we could use that to supplement the MMO in that current year. That way we don't touch the principal, and it's sustained that police trust as a way of supplementing our general fund income to pay for the legal department. All of our township wages, but even if we did that, we're still seeing these balances. All the township wages are capped at 3.5% for 25 and 2% thereafter. Core inflation is only 2% estimate. That's very aggressive. Legal cost at 3%. Based on the staffing study, things could change, but I don't have that information yet. 2% annual fire and EMS contribution increase. Those costs are always going up a lot higher. Insurance premiums, seen the past 2 years, they continually outpace, but I'm only holding them at 5% in this. And I'm even assuming that we get rid of the SPCA contract in 2029, which includes a 4% annual increase for the regular contract. And find an alternate means. And this is only holding the transfer capital reserve at 345,000. So you can see the disconnect between revenue and expenditures and how the general fund balance dives, and dives very precipitously. If you're getting between, 2027, 2028, and you're below 4 million, I would start worrying about our AAA bond rating, some of our debt obligations, because that all gets reported on an annual basis to all of our lenders. Next, please. Expense categories, I do this every year, and I'll do it for the budget too. They're fairly static. They always kind of hover in the same percentage of the total budget, but the percentage of the public safety is continually going up, so it's driving everything up, and it's remaining roughly around 40%. That's actually pretty typical of a lot of other townships that I reviewed. So here's the pie chart for actual expense in 2022. I kind of like to show a 2-year comparison to show how quickly some of these costs can escalate. So you can see public works, the highways and roads, that includes all the road paving and trees removal and all that kind of stuff that everybody sees on a regular daily basis. That's the second department, and public safety is obviously number one at 4.6, 4.7 million. And then in 2024, go to the next slide. Our budget's at 4.9 or 5.95 million. I detailed it out for the expense by category to show the 2 year over year analysis, and basically say it's public safety. I mean, we can cut a lot of different places, but by and large, that is the number one increase that we're seeing year in year. And between the same, if I take out public safety, it's a 7% increase over that 2-year period for all non-public safety departments. The safety detail is down below between Vigo, Vision Fire, Goodwill, Mountain Fire. We've had all of their representatives, well, not Goodwill and Mountain, but we had Grant, we had the chief come in. So we know that people are using these services, we see the calls for service. A lot of people, like you said, at Hershey's Mill, who pay taxes, don't necessarily get a lot of the services that Public Works does, but they get services from our EMS and our police department. So I wanted to throw up some scenarios just to let people know what kind of tactics you can use if you're only looking at one lever, which is a real estate millage increase, other than expense cutting, which is John's thing. So we've got, just to show you, so $160,000 we would basically generate in East Ocean for every 0.1 mil implemented as a tax increase. So for every 0.1 mil, we get about $160,000 if everybody pays on time. That pushes our number out from 2029 to 2030 to not violate our policy.
Dave,
Yes,
what does that do to the average homeowner's payment?
it's actually. It's about $25 a year for an average single family home.
For 10, every
and-
10th,
What's that?
for every 10th.
For every 0.1, yeah. About $25 a year, and if you're in Summit House or Cider Knoll, it's $7.50. If you're in Oak Tree, that could be $27. If that's Clock Tower, $37. Hershey Mill Village is probably between $10 to $20
A year,
a year.
okay.
Can I make a comment with Dave?
Yes.
Sorry, really quick. Dave put this together, and Dave, maybe it'd be worth sharing with the other board members as well. Propose what each neighborhood is and how much the average East Goshen resident pays for their township tax, county tax, and school tax. It's not in your packet.
No,
Yeah, I
but
just asked
on
for it
the
today.
packet-
No, but I'll make copies.
But you had provided that to us before when there was a tax.
I did this in
Proposed.
22 phone, the 20.
That would be helpful.
When it was approved, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's roughly of the total real estate millage that residents pay, it's between the county, the township, and the school district. Obviously, we have a population that's, the majority is easily, it's 60% over 60, basically. So we have a lot of retirees, a lot of people getting ready to retire, and they're paying about 78% of their real estate millage total goes to school tax. And I'm sure they don't have kids in school, right? They might have at one time, but I don't know. The current county tax is about 16% of the total. And the current municipal tax that East Goshen has is about 6%. So when you think about 6% of the total and wonder what the county does for you, wonder what the school district does for you, and you see visibly what the township does for you, I think you get a lot bigger bang for your buck with township tax.
Is there a way that we can see how it's spent inside the pie chart of all the different departments when it's all going?
Where would an increase would go?
No.
No,
where
he's
it's
talking about,
being
like,
Spent,
Line
where all the
item
money
within
currently
line
is being
item.
spent on what?
Yeah, I
I,
get that detail.
I've asked Dave, I've asked Dave for a budget set up by department rather than overall. And you said you're working on that.
I am, yeah, I dropped you an email. There's a lot of questions I have because we've done analysis like this before where it's either, Marty used to want to do core and non-core and break out certain things and not other things. So there's a lot of questions of where is the allocation of tax revenue go? Does that go to finance and administration? Does it get split amongst all the departments? Is it a separate line item? Same thing with capital transfers from general fund to fund the capital reserve. Should that go against public works? Should it go by department based on what we transfer for?
Certainly for me, I'm more interested in the expenses rather than the revenue.
So in Parks and Recreation, for instance, regular maintenance of the park, utilities, things like that. Would that be included in the Parks and Rec budget or that be Public Works?
Well, what do you do with it? Who benefits? Who would benefit?
Probably anybody going to the park.
What department benefits? What department ends up with the money? I know it's
Yeah, we're talking about expenses. though.
it's intercompany transfer, but who ends up with the money?
No, that's going from the general fund to the capital fund. And that goes towards office equipment, it goes towards,
Well, the general fund is the revenue. I'm not so
general
concerned
fund's
about
expenses too. I'm not understanding. your
the
question.
expenses are paid out per department.
They're paid out by line item.
Yes, right now, but I'd like to see them by department.
Right, but so if we have people cut grass in the park, does that get charged to the park or does that get charged to Public Works because they're doing the cutting?
It gets charged to the park. Because the park, it's on the park, it should be on the park budget.
What about Milltown or Hershey's Mills Dam? What does that go to?
Um,
We're just saying there's a ton of different
there's
expenses,
general,
which makes it very hard to, you either lump it into finance and administration because everything in this building that we have to pay for benefits somebody. But overhead. Right, but how do you compensate for the overhead expense when overhead revenue doesn't come in? You know what I mean? Like, how do you split the
Well,
hairs?
you're, again, looking at the revenue side first. I just want to know what is spent by each department. And if you want to lump headquarters in, fine.
Well, I'm already starting it, so I've been working on it since yesterday.
And
I'll come up with a draft. that I'm gonna
I
buy.
don't expect answers in a day. This is difficult.
No,
I understand.
I'm in the process, that's why I'm asking the questions, because there's a lot of questions to be answered about whether or not that should be considered an expense to this department or another department, because we have a lot of overlap. So I'll do a draft and I'll bring it to you and say, what do you think? And, obviously I'll talk to Mark and all the department heads as well, and Derek, and see what they think before I bring it to the board.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Can I ask a quick question, please? So referring back to page 9 of this. Page 9, the what if scenario, real estate tax increase, 1 mil increase at 0.1 mil per year. What year are you proposing that would have to start?
That would go in 25. I'm
So-
just showing, I mean,
That's
just for
so that's what this-
illustrative.
That's what this is indicating then, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so
I just
every,
wanted to be
on the
clear.
bottom, it shows the change in millage,
Oh, geez.
and I
It's
did it
getting
by
late, Dave,
color,
I'm
so
sorry.
every time there's a change in color, there's a change in millage.
I'm sorry about that, I missed that.
No, that's okay.
Alright.
I really just wanted to show a little increase every year, while it sounds terrific, isn't gonna pay off as much your bang for your buck when you look at getting that tax money up front. So if you want to look at 0.5 beginning in 2028, slide 10.
Yeah,
So, okay, we put it in, we waited a long time, and then we put it in right when we were about in danger. And what does it do? It kicks it in barely a year, not even. If you do it in 2025, then you see you're pushed out past 2030.
And Dave,
yeah.
if we did it that way and we went up 0.1 mil per year, is that the $25 then?
Yes,
So every one of these years is a $25 increase.
to a
what's the
single
thing-
family dwelling, yeah.
What's the base now for a single family?
It is 100 and.
It's $437.50.
$437.50?
Yeah, that's based on the average assessed value in East Goshen for a single family home at $250,000.
Okay, so out 10 years, we're gonna increase that. In this scenario, $250.
10 years, yes. And so, Peter, I saw that look. So part of the problem that we run into is that Chester County has not reassessed in When was the last time they did? it?
1996,
1994.
1996.
Yeah,
I know it's
so
been four.
where cities like Philadelphia realize that all they have to do is reassess properties and they get the money. Chester County won't reassess, so we're stuck being the bad guys, increasing taxes. Whereas if they just did it naturally and organically based on the market, we would already have that revenue.
Till it's sold, it doesn't assess.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
I believe that
No.
No, yeah, you want it sold.
No,
Didn't you value the stock sale?
no,
No.
Only if you build something.
Yeah, if you
Then
build like an addition or a deck, it does, but literally there's properties that have not been reassessed since the mid-90s.
The only revenue that helps us there is when they sell, we get 0.5% of the transfer.
Okay. And the next page is,
This is just a,
5 times.
yeah, I'm just trying to show a couple scenarios to show how difficult it is if the expenses stay similar without some dramatic increase in millage. And the earlier, the better off you are. But I mean, that's kind of the point that I take with the long range plan is to show this and say, you know, here's where we are. It's not necessarily where we're gonna be, but this is the trend that we're seeing. So how do we avoid?
You know I'm gonna needle you now, don't you?
Sure.
Uh, First of all, I
You
appreciate the
only have
work,
10 minutes.
you did,
Thank you.
because I know this takes a lot. But the what if scenario that I don't see is what if we cut expenses?
John, we have this conversation every year. What are you gonna cut?
I'll do it if you want me to.
Yeah, I'll do it. If you can, if I can figure out something more than 250,000, I'd be happy because we did this exercise last year and we can never cut anything that's
No,
substantial.
we did it last year and 2 years ago, and the cuts we came up with were never put in.
Yeah, but they weren't that grave a sum.
Well, I mean, if you think about it this way, so I've got.
I'm not combating you. I'm just saying like, I feel like the stuff that drives up this stuff is public safety, you know?
It is, so
Well, specifically
It
police,
is.
specifically police.
2024 versus 2022. 2024 versus 2022, all non-public safety expenses increased a total of 7%. That was $505,000 over 2 years. That's less than inflation over that period. Now, the majority of that was insurance premiums, which everybody has medical, everybody's got our cybersecurity policy, our communicable disease, we've got property and liability, all those, and we have to have insurance. We have expense in public works sanitation, that went up the next amount. It's 177,000, but 100,000 of that was recharged to the general fund for the work that the guys did on the sewer. The rest of it was all stormwater, which we can't recharge and was done in-house, and you have no, we have to do the stormwater work. I wish it was a business, because then I could just cut things and raise revenues if I wanted to, but there are so many safety issues and things that service related that people here expect and want, unless you guys want to cut services someplace, which
What was the increase in EMS, fire and police in that same period of time,
From 22 to 24.
from 22 to 24?
you can go up
What was that increase?
27%.
Thank you.
Yeah, 27%.
What was the number?
So
It's not
what-
sustainable.
the tough thing that we're doing is trying to find, not to belabor the point, but trying to find nickels when we're trying to find $1 million.
Right.
I mean, that's the big nut.
So on page 6, you have the pie chart, I think, answer. Is there a way to show a line item for where all the money goes, not just it goes there?
Yes. I have all the.
Just so we can see where the money's spent on,
Yeah.
not just that, but what is spent inside that.
Yeah, so I start off in the long range plan with a very generalization. Now, when we start, this is kind of the jump off point for the budget discussions. And that's when I'll give you as much detail as you possibly want.
Okay.
I'll pull up invoices by line item and show you what it's spent on. I spent, 4 hours last time, Michelle, we went through everything. Went through every single line item, brought up examples of everything. I'm willing to do that for everybody because we're 100% transparent and the public should know that too. I mean, it's spent on applicable things.
Mhm.
So when you see what it's spent on, you can make a better determination of should we or should we not try and cut that. A lot of it's hard to cut, to be honest. I mean, traffic signals,
I'm not saying cutting, I just wanna know what that, what is, that,
Yep.
what that represents, not just a number, like what
Yep.
is. that's all.
yeah, we've got salaries, benefits, payroll taxes, all the materials, we've got all of it.
Just better understanding of.
Yep, I just try and keep it a little bit briefer because otherwise we.
Oh, yeah, no, I know, yeah, I can't do here,
Yeah, well, I think we're doing a workshop, right?
Yes.
Yes,
okay.
What are
September.
we doing?
Oh, we're gonna be doing that through
I think
September.
about September.
Every week in September.
Every week in September, we have a
And I-
meeting to look forward to.
I'd ask the board members now to start looking at their schedules through the end of the summer and see if there's times that are best for them if they want to come in on a one-on-one basis or a two-on-one basis or whatever. Derek can be available. I'm always available, so we can chill with everything you want to say.
Thank you, Dave.
Sure.
There's a lot of work on this. I wish I could be more upbeat after looking at it.
Well, there's a lot of assumptions too, though. You know, you're taking a basic jump off point and you're assuming a lot of things and you never know how it's gonna go. I mean, I'm not rosy about next year based on talking with Jim Kennedy too. The MMO is not going down. It probably is gonna be about the same that we saw this year. And it's not gonna go down in the future because once you get to that level, you've already just made up for the years that were bad in the market. So that's not really going down. That was my big hope, is that maybe it would drop.
Right.
But outside of that,
Yeah, that was their big hope too.
Yeah.
They were hoping it was gonna drop a little bit.
Yeah.
Dave might just request if you can send that to everyone's email tomorrow, the one pager, that would be helpful. Absolutely. Especially for
Yeah.
Peter and Barbara.
That would be very helpful and, it's a lot of work to be considered.
Is there another, is there someone else besides the SPCA you can use? Is there private other animal shelters out there?
Yeah, there are.
Are there?
There's a couple, but it's difficult geographically. That was.
I don't even know, I don't know about
Yeah, that was, it's also a sort of subject up here, but,
it. I don't.
well,
it
with
was,
the thing that stinks is that we went from like a $10,000 to $12,000 amount to in the budget this year, but the new contract gone up to 30,000.
Mhm.
That was a tough one to.
It was,
Is it a flat fee no matter what?
There's a fee to contract with them and you have to pay that up front. Otherwise you get a fee for being
You
late
get it
on
out for
that.
day? Even in that close by, they make drive down it for less.
yeah, I mean, we took a look at it last time. There was basically, there's one, I forget, there's one in Western Chester County that it's the name's escaping me right now. But the level of service, they just weren't prepared to come to the eastern part of Chester County. I'll look at it again as many times as you want me to.
We're
but-
charging $30,000, you put out the bid, it's only like $15,000.
well, I had a contact that I gave to Dave.
Yeah.
With a shelter that we at least can talk to start the process, so.
I don't know how much work's involved in this.
The disappointing thing is that the SPCA wouldn't change their their contract at all.
Yeah.
And if they would, then we could do some things with who's allowed. Because as it is, any resident can drop off an animal.
Mhm.
Well, if it's a cat, it costs $200 right then.
Yeah.
If it's a dog, 400.
Mhm.
Well, if there's feral cats in Goshen Valley,
Mhm.
and somebody comes in and brings a litter of 15 cats, that's a lot of money.
But I think this is actually a good topic that proves your point is, I mean, even if we got somebody for just say 15 grand and we say, or we just cut it all together and have feral cats running around. I mean, what does that do to the overall budget if we cut that expense? Not
It's not
much.
$1 million.
Yeah. So just things to ponder. There you
But
go.
whether it's $1 million or whether it's $500, I mean, we are looking at everything.
Okay, are there any more questions from the board? And we're at that point of the meeting, is there any public comment? Please, and is there any public comment on the Zoom room?
No one's on.
Nobody's on anymore? Okay. I know, can you believe that people dropped off?
No, I think say things I couldn't say when I'm sitting up there. So and I'll say this for public comment, because the board knows this. But the elephant in the room is the blue, red, and the black. That's the police expense. And the study, which the chief never supported, and the comments this evening indicated that she doesn't support, the board being very transparent, always has been. The RFP was included in the information we all received, and the response to the RFP was in that as well. So, for the public to understand, there are three staffing models. One is the budget staffing model, where you go to the police and you say, here's $6 million, you figure out how to provide services in the township. The second is what we have now, which is a shift staffing model. So right now, we have 4 police officers and a sergeant on every shift, 24/7. So tell me if we need 4 police officers and a sergeant at 2 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. The most inefficient staffing model for police right now is what we have, and it's costing us a fortune. The third model is what's called a workforce model, where you do an analysis and you say, how do we staff our township based on our needs, based on the day of the week, the hour of the day, based on proactive and reactive calls for service. And that's what the study hopefully will demonstrate. Now, the implementation of that is, because it's a union, it's going to have to be through attrition if there is staff reduction. Study could go back and say, you're understaffed, you need more police. But if you have a workforce model, I believe it requires less police. That's going to have to happen through attrition. So you're looking at your budget projections, it's going to take a 3 to 4 to 5 year horizon to get those costs in line. So I just want to make that as a public comment so that everyone understands kind of what we're dealing with here. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments,
Thank you,
Mr.
David.
Shuey. All right, any other public comments or questions? Seeing none, we're at that point in the evening. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
Second motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming.
There you go.
Thank you, Graham.
Thanks, Grant.
Everything is signed.